Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Good morning, honorable members and colleagues. I believe we can start our meeting. Honorable members, you would recall that we've been having a series of meetings, some as the entire portfolio committee, one with the chairperson's office together with DHET governors. And of course, we've also requested insights from Labour on their perspective moving into the 2024 academic year, of which we would have received in writing. And we've also engaged, of course, with NSFAS, USAF, SAPCO, as well as SATFETA and SAUS to get their perspective on the sector as we move into the 2024 academic year. We are now finally meeting with the ministry and the department for them to give us a briefing on the state of higher education and training and its readiness for the academic year 2024. I, at this point, would like to know from Anele if there are any apologies this morning.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning to honorable members. Yes, Chairperson, we received apologies. Honorable Khachau, she said she'll be joining the meeting a little bit late due to other commitments. Chair, we also received an apology from the minister. The minister will be connecting and then disconnect in the meeting at 9:45 because the president has convened a special cabinet meeting for all ministers, where the minister is expected to brief cabinet on developments at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. Thereafter, the minister chair will, after presenting to cabinet, he will then join the meeting again. Those are the two apologies that I received, Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anele. Without wasting any time, I'd like to directly go to the minister for him to make his opening remarks, and then we'll hand over to the department. Minister Nzimande.
Recording in progress.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Ms. Nompendulo Mkhatshwa. Let me also greet all the honorable members of this portfolio committee. Also greet the DG of the Department of Higher Education and Training and his team, and members of the media who possibly have joined us, and everyone who is actually part of this meeting this morning. Chair, my apology has been given. It's rather unfortunate that there is a clash again today between this portfolio committee and a special cabinet called by the president. At the same time, starting at 10, that's why I have to disconnect at 9:45, so that I will start connecting there. And I'm also presenting there on virtually the same matters that I'll be presenting in today, particular focus being on NSFAS that cabinet requires that I take them through. But as the apology says, I will actually seek to, I have given an apology for cabinet special to be released. I hope that the president has agreed that I come back to actually be part of at least the last part of the portfolio committee, hopefully when he will be engaging. This was totally beyond my control, Chair, as I was actually looking forward to be sitting in this portfolio committee till it finishes. This is the last portfolio committee of the year. And I would just like to say, Chair, that indeed we have come a long way from the COVID period. It's nice this year that as we end this year, none of our institutions are going to be finishing their academic year next year. They are all finishing this year. We need to remind ourselves where we come from and the challenges that we are having. And what this means is that we are back on track. Our institutions are back on track. Whatever challenges are there, the system, our post-school education and training system is working and providing education and other programs to both youth and adults in the post-school education and training sector. That's why, Chair, I would just like to start by highlighting some of the achievements as we end this year of the Portfolio Committee. As a background, also to introduce the presentation. By the way, I do need to say that when I leave, I will be joined by DDG Sotlirwa, who I need in cabinet for purposes of presentation on NSFAS. So the DG will actually then present. In any case, the DG will be presenting the overall thing, and he may decide to call this or that DDG to come in to add. But Dr. Sotlirwa will be joining me in cabinet. And I also just need to say that we have worked relatively well with the Portfolio Committee, especially in providing all the information and participating in the committees in which you needed us for purposes of you exercising your oversight. Despite glitches in NSFAS, which we fully accounted for in this Portfolio Committee, I'm proud to say that we never ran away from that, including yourselves, even calling some of the service providers on direct payment. NSFAS continued to fund hundreds of thousands of poor students, covering tuition, accommodation, food, book allowances, transport in some instances, and monthly allowance. In fact, we also introduced a new living allowance for TVET college students, which was very important as part of stabilizing the college sector and expressing our confidence in the TVET college sector, which we need to build and expand as this government. In fact, NSFAS is one of the biggest achievements of this government since 1994. And in fact, a system like this does not exist anywhere else in the world in terms of our own benchmarking and comparisons. Of course, that will exclude a country like Cuba, which has got completely free education, including higher education. But there is no scheme of this type anywhere else in the world. Certainly not in the continent, certainly not in the developing world. Even, as I have said before, the developed countries that boast about free higher education, like Germany, they only pay tuition. They don't pay all these other things, food, allowances, transport, accommodation. Students find those privately at their own cost. I'm also proud on the higher education and training side of things, which we are focusing on today, Chair, to say that we have opened new trade test centers to test apprentices to become artisans this year. Last week we opened, in fact, I'm proud to say, the 35th trade test center in Soweto for welding. And in fact, it is the first ever trade test center in Soweto as a set of townships, which is very historic. In fact, all the 34 trade test centers are new, have been launched by this democratic government, because we had only one, which was an apartheid trade test center in Olifantsfontein that we've renamed Indlela now. Now, this is very significant, Chair, that as we end the year and preparing for the new year, I say this, because what it means now, unlike pre-1994, anyone who wanted to be tested as an apprentice to become an artisan, all of them from all over the country, will have to travel to Ekurhuleni, to Olifantsfontein, as it was known at that time. Trade test center, everyone. Of course, this was possible because apartheid only allowed white youth to be artisans, something that will change. Now, with 34 other trade test centers, it means that, which are spread all over the country, which means that our young people will find a fairly reasonable nearby trade test center to go and do this. And we are deliberately establishing these new trade test centers in our TVET colleges, so that there is this seamless transition from training to a trade test and to artisanship. I think it's something that I need to say in the wake of these trade test centers we've opened, and the one opened in Soweto. We've also this year opened a number of student accommodation facilities. Walter Sisulu University and the University of the Western Cape, much as we are still behind, but we continue to open new infrastructure. Not fake infrastructure, Chair, but infrastructure that exists. In fact, once more, I would like to invite members of the Portfolio Committee during their constituency work to go visit these facilities. Recently, I've just opened a TVET College campus, brand new, at Umsinga in KwaZulu-Natal, under the Umgungundlovu TVET College Center. It's a historic campus that, because it's the first ever post-school institution in a place like Umsinga. And Umsinga notoriously has been known in the past as a place of violence and deaths of guns and so on. With this, we are contributing to changing that image so that Umsinga ceases to be a place known for guns and killings, but to be a place known for education and skills development. Of course, we still have a number of other new campuses, especially in the poor provinces, that are either complete or are nearing completion, in the Eastern Cape, in Limpopo, in KwaZulu-Natal, and some in the Northwest, including skill centers as well. And I do want to say that when we commit to building infrastructure, we've built it. And it's first-class infrastructure. And we are not only just doing new infrastructure in terms of buildings, but we are also ensuring also that there is ICT infrastructure. Umsinga is going to be having a Wi-Fi there and other modern ICT infrastructure, such that no rural college must actually be different from an urban college by virtue of being in the rural area. Of course, this is a contribution, Chair, to something that still remains a huge task for this government and for this country, that of changing the size and shape of the post-school education and training system. What do I mean by this? I have asked the department this year to start working at a framework for using the next 7 years towards the NDP goals, targets, to say what is it that we need to do further to ensure that we increase the number of students in colleges to be much more than the number of students at universities, because that's what our country needs. The NDP, if we were to remind ourselves, commits that by 2030 we should be having 2.5 million students in TVET colleges and 1.6 million students at universities. At universities, the target is within reach. This year, we were just at over 1.1 million. And we hope we will meet this 1.6. Of course, if we have further budget cuts, that target itself may be compromised. But TVET colleges, there is no way that we're going to multiply it almost by 5 in 7 years, from about 500,000 students we have now to about 2.5 million. But nevertheless, we are striving to expand TVET colleges as we are expanding universities. I'm also pleased, as I've said before, that we've finished the feasibility study for the 2 new universities, one in Hammanskraal and one in Ekurhuleni. And we are working towards presenting this to Cabinet. We're hoping that we would have done it by end of this year, but we are presenting it in the new year in Cabinet, for Cabinet to make a decision on when and how do we actually start these universities. Now, it is against this background then that I must just make a few remarks, Chair, before I hand over to the DG on the start of the academic year. It's against these backgrounds and some of these achievements that we are looking positively towards the 2024 academic year. Of course, we do have challenges, but we are confident that working together with all the stakeholders in the sector, nothing is going to stop us in achieving the things that we want to achieve. Let me start by saying that I'm very pleased that Cabinet has just approved what I would call the next phase of the comprehensive student funding model, focusing especially in responding to the needs of the missing middle as from 2024. The reason why I'm calling this a phase is because we are still far from having a comprehensive student funding model. And I'll tell you why. I think we've been saying this in this portfolio committee. When I appointed the ministerial task team, which was headed by Professor Mtose, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Zululand, deputized by Professor Peterson of the University of the Free State, they presented that in order to transition to a full comprehensive student funding model, it's a period that's going to take us perhaps up to 10 years. Because a lot more things actually needs to be done in order to really practically concretize a 10-year. Let me just mention a few things. For instance, we still have a lot of work to pull together into one portal all bursaries and scholarships that are given by government in South Africa, so that we can have a full picture of how much money is government spending, and are there synergies in the manner in which we spend that money, and we also eliminate double dipping. For instance, student funding contribution is not only done by NSFAS and the national government. Virtually all provinces have got bursaries that they give to students. most municipalities, or let me say many municipalities, we are still going to have to pull that information together, especially the metros. They give hundreds, if not thousands, actually, thousands, in fact, of bursaries each year. That's part of government spending on education and on scholarship and on student funding. So we can't have a comprehensive student funding model in the country unless also we know exactly how much money comes from Mangaung municipality to support what kinds of students and how much is it. So that's part of moving towards developing a comprehensive student funding model. Let me also make another example, Chair. What do I mean? That we still have some way to go. We also need to bring firmly the postgraduate funding in this country, which is largely, but not exclusively, led by the Department of Science and Innovation, the National Research Foundation. There again, we still need to pull together a lot of information. We've introduced some changes, but also there are other scholarships that are South African scholarships. Others are scholarships overseas that are given to South African students. We need, part of that information is with us. As the Department of Higher Education and Training, we have a scholarship office, but we have to pull together also scholarships that are given by the private sector, including, by the way, bursaries given by the private sector for undergraduate studies. We need to pull all that together so that we know how much we are spending, is this money being spent correctly, and so on. Only then can we claim that we've got then a comprehensive student funding model. There are other aspects of student funding. For instance, there are still critical policy issues that we still need to decide. How do we prioritize offering of NSFAS? We still need to have that discussion. Do we just fund everyone who knocks at the door for NSFAS, or do we prioritize certain programs, degrees and certificates based on the skills needs of the country? We are not yet doing that with NSFAS. We will have to look at that going forward. But we can't just start doing such discrimination without also having a large college sector that must be able to absorb those students, for instance, who may not be able to fund for university, if we decide to prioritize certain issues. Also, that's not a small thing to do, Chair and honorable members, because, for instance, for the scarce skills that we need in this country, medicine, engineering, architecture, and so on, as they are in the scarce skills list, for many of those, we need students who pass matric with maths and science at minimum 60%. That's very small, that figure. I don't have it offhand here, I was looking for it. But there are very few students, far from enough, who pass matric with minimum 60% in mathematics and science. So in moving towards a comprehensive student model, we have to take into account all these issues, because we can't discuss issues in isolation from the broader system of the education that we actually have or need to have. I'm very pleased then, that's why I'm saying Cabinet has approved what we regard as the next immediate phase of a comprehensive student funding model, stabilizing NSFAS. That's why I'm presenting also at Cabinet on NSFAS today, as well as a system, a mixed system of a loan and a bursary for missing middle students to incentivize that those who pass, part of the money gets converted into a bursary, so that also we are able to incentivize them. Unfortunately, Chair, I am not in a position to provide the details today, because this has just been approved by Cabinet last week. Because it took us longer than we had anticipated to even deal with this phase of the missing middle. And I will share with you very briefly why. We took more than 6 months engaging the banks. In the end, after that 6 months, the bank said no, we are not going to share some of the information because we're exploring everyone. We also then engaged the Post Bank and found that the Post Bank doesn't have a license. If you ask me my preference, Post Bank would be my preference to handle whatever loan system we may have for the missing middle. We've also been engaged in NSFAS, and we are still engaged in NSFAS now. Because NSFAS had some capacity, they are still collecting loans, where the NSFAS can be given more capacity to, at least for next year, it may not be for year beyond next year, to actually, whilst we are working at a much more stable and better system to address the missing middle. But we've raised 3.8 billion rands, and our figures actually tells us that money will go a long way in addressing the missing middle in terms of the latest actuarial statistics that we have. If we are calculating it, families not earning more than 600,000 rand per annum. Now, the reason why I'm unable to give more information on this, Chair, is because we are just finalizing consultations with students, USAF, the college principals, because there are matters that need still to be addressed. We can only be able in the new parliament next year, not new parliament, in the new year, to be able to give you more information. But we will have to start moving as soon as we agree with the stakeholders. We can't just go public because we still have to find one another on a few things. But I'm pleased to say that we are beginning to tackle, as from next year, the challenge of the missing middle. Now, Chair, I don't want to talk forever, but I just thought that it's important also that I highlight a few things, though the DG is going to do this. We are going ahead with our planning processes for the opening of the TVET college universities and TVET colleges. With the TVET colleges, we began the planning process in July. All our 50 TVET colleges have completed and submitted their council approved and signed strategic and annual performance plan for 2024. I'm very pleased to say so. For our universities, as a department, we are currently monitoring the universities' approved enrollment plans. However, awaiting the National Treasury's letter on budget cuts, which are likely to have further impact on enrollments. And we hope not on NSFAS, but also we can't rule that out. We can't rule that out with these budget cuts. And we are still waiting to finalize matters in the wake of the medium-term budget policy statement, as Treasury is engaging various departments individually. In 2024 academic year, we'll continue to use our monitoring tool used in 2023 to monitor our registration processes. And also to ensure stronger accountability, we've set up a steering committee consisting of representatives from DHET, the Central Applications Scheme Directorate, the universities, NSFAS, and student leaders will be part of this steering committee. We want every stakeholder to be represented in this as we move towards starting the new year. We've just finalized the terms of reference of the steering committee. And on the 5th of January, the university branch will have a meeting with all the registrars to discuss readiness of universities to start the 2024 academic year. The reason why, Chair, we are doing this at that time, we've done a lot of work now to prepare for the start of the year, but we still need to meet with the registrars because I have yet to issue the annual ministerial letter that I give to universities, for instance, to say each university is going to get exactly so much money. I am unable to do that whilst we haven't finalized the issue of possible and the nature and the extent of budget cuts for our department with National Treasury. Now, we're also going to be having a further meeting with all the security managers of our colleges and universities to deal with any threats that may arise requiring security during registration. And we will be holding this meeting virtually on the 4th of January. So some of us have got a very short festive season break indeed. As Minister, I will also having ongoing meetings with USAF, the college principals, SAUS, and the DHET College Student Association and other relevant stakeholders, the trade union movement as well, to discuss progress and challenges in our planning processes. Let me also report that as a department, we identified all the hotspots. We've identified all the hotspots often associated with certain institutions and certain problems where issues have not been adequately addressed so that we are able to be better prepared on accommodation, accreditation, funding decisions, exchange of registration data, amongst others. The DG will give a bit more detail on this to this portfolio committee. I'm delighted also to say that to go back to where I started earlier, that we have done to the best of our ability all that we could do to actually account to this portfolio committee. Although, you know, Chair, I've sometimes felt that we are calling us too much to the portfolio committee and my officials, which sometimes doesn't give me enough chance. For instance, you meet with my DG 5 times more than I'm able to meet with my DGs. That's your task, that's your job, but we'll have to continue engaging around this, because in order also to account, we must account for work that we are able to do. I need my staff to be able to do work so that we can come back to you to account. But we will continue to engage on that, and that must not be interpreted, what I'm saying, as if we don't want to account. We want to fully account, and as this minister, I've done my best to do so with my department. And I remain steadfast to provide strategic leadership for the beginning of the academic year and throughout the rest of what is left of the 6th administration by developing appropriate transformation measures in our plans. Lastly, Chair, the department officials led by the DG, and as I have said, I will take away Deputy Director General Soxiba for a while, and Dr. Sishi will be able to actually provide the details. So, Chair, with your permission, I will then be handing over with your concurrence to the DG to take the portfolio committee through, and I will shortly be disconnecting, and I'm hoping that I will be part of responding to some of the issues that will be raised during the discussion after the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. I think we would prefer that perhaps you just note a few critical questions from members. Those members believe they'll appreciate that you heard, and if you would prefer that we respond to them, or you respond to them, when you return, that's fine. But I think it's important that members be given an opportunity to engage with yourself. So if that's okay, I'd like to note hands from members who have any particular matters to engage with the minister, not those that we can engage with the DG. I think members at this point should be able to differentiate between the two.
Sorry, Chair, with your permission. Please be aware, I only have 10 minutes now, so I don't want them to appear as if I've left some issues unaddressed. As I've said, I have asked for an apology at Cabinet. I hope the President will be able to give me, such that when my item has been dealt with, I am then able to come back. I'm not sure exactly what time but at least it must be having enough time, not less than an hour at least, to be able to be part of rejoining the portfolio committee. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to draw attention to that.
So you are saying you have 10 minutes before you must join cabinet?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we'll note the questions from members, and when you return, you'll respond to those questions. Members, please note that we have then 10 minutes to ask our questions to the minister. Note Honorable Shikwambana, note Honorable King, and those are the only hands I see for now. Honorable Shikwambana. Honorable Shikwambana, your mic, but there's no sound
can't
coming.
hear, Chair.
There's no sound coming through from your side, Honorable Shikwambana. I think disconnect and reconnect, and then we'll come back to you. Honorable King.
Good morning, everyone on the platform, and good morning, Minister. Minister, I must admit, it's interesting to hear what you were saying about the comprehensive funding model. I just want to find out, would that then be the model that I presented? Because it sounds similar exactly to the funding model that we have presented, especially when it comes to having different avenues of funding, but it must be on one specific platform for students to properly apply to these different avenues of funding. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable King. I don't see any other questions from members, and Honorable Shikwambana is not back on the platform, so the DG will have to note the question that Honorable Shikwambana has to the Minister. Minister, that's the only question that you have, and I've noted some of the matters that you've raised, very important matters that you've raised, and I think we can engage with them after the presentation from the DG. But just to also say that, we definitely appreciate the presence of your officials in the portfolio committee. But I think, the portfolio committee interacts with higher education matters on a Wednesday and science and innovation matters on a Friday, and it sits every week. And so as we have been guided by the parliamentary program to sit. So I think perhaps, if the executive feels that, Parliament does not afford them sufficient time to do their work, I think that's a matter that should be engaged with the chair of chairs. Because we are guided as committees on how to go about our work by the parliamentary program, and committees will be guided by the chair of chairs. So that's just my little input there. But otherwise, thank you very much for your remarks. Honorable Shikwambana is back. Honorable Shikwambana, let's check your mic.
Are you able to hear me now, Chair?
We can hear you now.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I'm not sure if the minister is still around, but I have got a couple of issues to raise, which I believe I will go through them during the discussions when we go through. But I wanted to just put this point before the minister goes, that should the minister, for once, just refrain from policing the committee on how to operate, because half of the time when minister speaks, it's like he want to teach us on how to do the work, or maybe we don't do our work as according to the way he think we should be doing it. Because it's not the first time minister speaks something like this, of us taking away his staff, or also calling NSFAS when we're not supposed to be calling people to come here and account and all those type of things. So I just find it very strong that I should raise it to say, can we at once be allowed to do our work the way we think is best for us to hold institutions and entities accountable, because that's our responsibility. And we are going to be told that how many times must we call people to come here, and how must we call them, and when must we call them, and we must not call them, then I feel it like it's something else. So should the minister just be at least once refrain from giving such remarks, because to me it sounds as if he's actually trying to police us on how to do our work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shikwamban. Honorable Minister, those are then the questions and comments from members. I don't know if you have time to respond to any, otherwise we will await your responses when you return.
Well, if you allow me a brief response, Chair, because I still have 4 minutes, I can be able to just quickly, because I don't think they are quite involved. Questions. Maybe the first thing, Honorable King, I don't know when you say this is what you have suggested. I don't know who is you. Is it the DA? Is it the portfolio committee? Anyway, that's not the main issue for me. I'm just glad that you appreciate that we've actually done a lot of work, and we've just shared very briefly some of the elements of this. I wish we had completed the consultations and everything in order to be able to share with the portfolio committee, because we don't run away from sharing with the portfolio committee on the work that needs to be done. Honorable Shikwamban, I think you are getting me completely wrong. I'm not for a moment trying to police the committee. I'm not for a moment trying to prescribe to the portfolio committee. I've been long enough as a member of parliament myself to know and understand what portfolio committees must do. But it does not mean that I mustn't raise the issue that we should continuously seek to address, not an imposition, together with the portfolio committee, is how do we strike a balance that gives us as ministers also enough time with our staff members to be able to do more work. The fact that I'm raising that sometimes we have felt that every week being in the portfolio committee does have some negative effect on the amount of work that we are actually, because it's not just appearing in the committee every week, it means preparing. We have to collect information, we have to prepare, we have to send it a couple of days before and so on. I'm not raising this in an adversarial manner. I'm not raising this as a criticism to the committee. I'm raising this as something that I'm saying also the portfolio committee must also understand the impact of holding meetings in particular ways on our work also as the executive. All what it is aimed to do and what I was raising is that it's something we must continuously discuss, because it does pose certain challenges on our side. Now, if I don't raise it here, where do you expect me to raise it? In a rally? I can't do that. So it's not hostile. It's not adversarial. I don't have powers to prescribe to the committee. I know that very well. I was an MP since 1994, though I had a 10-year break from 1999. I understand perfectly, Mr. Shikwamban, how committees operate. So for you to just take this in an adversarial way, it's your problem. I'm not raising it in an adversarial manner, and I'm not prescribing to the committee at all, Chairperson. I hope I'm making myself clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. We hope to engage with you later on. I'd like to, at this point, check if the Deputy Minister has anything to add, and then we'll hand over to the DG. All right, I believe the DM is fine. DG, over to you.
Thank you very much, and a very good morning to you, Chair of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Nompendulo Mkhatshwa. And thank you very much for your opening words of welcome to us in the department. May I take this opportunity to wish you well at this time, this being the last meeting of the program for the academic year, together with your all the honorable members that are in the room today. It's been a difficult year. There were difficult times, but there were also times when working together has proven to be our lever for driving the successes that the minister has eloquently articulated in his opening remarks. I take this opportunity to recognize the minister, and may I also indicate that our minister has recently been recognized with an honor by an esteemed institution of higher learning in China as a professor, and we congratulate him for this, and I think it is my task as the DG of the department to make this point, that on behalf of the department and at this platform, we congratulate the minister and we wish him well. And we trust that this inspires him to help us to overcome all the challenges that we are confronted with. We need his leadership as we do this. Chairperson, may I also recognize the presence of our Deputy Minister, who at all times inspires us with his leadership, and his presence here today strengthens us. At a very important time, Chairperson, that we, as the post-education and training sector, awaits the release of the matric results, which the Minister of Basic Education will be announcing on the 18th of January, and the results will be released on the 19th of January. The Constitution of the Republic of South Africa directs the post-school education and training system to, through reasonable measures, progressively make post-school education available and accessible. And it is our duty that is derived from the Constitution that we provide Parliament with the plans for the new academic year, because this is what the Constitution enjoins us to do, to making sure that when the many young South Africans promised through Section 29 of Act number 108 of 1996, the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, that everyone has a right to basic education, and therefore meaning that there is compulsory education in basic education. And we have a duty in higher education to making sure that we deal with the notion of progressively making education accessible and available. Chair, I think because of the comprehensive nature of the remarks by the minister, I will proceed without making any further remarks. But I think it's important that I foreground this presentation with two key issues that I believe needs to frame the conversations today. The first is the whole notion of the importance and the important role of NSFAS, and the fact that over time now we have had challenges that in 2021 led to the presentation of a report by the Ministerial Commission of Inquiry appointed in 2019, which was tasked by the minister to look into NSFAS operations, particularly business processes, systems, and capacity. In this regard, the action plan, which is the basis for the Department of Higher Education to monitor the progress of NSFAS. And I think at some point we will make comments around this issue, Chair. And I think it's going to be important that we revisit what are these findings and what in the action plan have we been looking at, particularly the whole issue of change management strategy at NSFAS, the whole issue of stakeholder relations, revisiting the strategic implementation enhancement plan for the audit improvement at NSFAS. These are some of the issues which have guided the department in the last 4 years since the 2019 appointment of the Ministerial Commission of Inquiry and its report tabled in 2021. Ms. Puchani, if you could just get me to the next slide. Chair, our presentation this morning will comprise of our reflections on the year. And it's important that we do so because we must learn from our mistakes, but we must also take to confidence Parliament, regarding areas where we have struggled and areas where we are still struggling. And I foregrounded NSFAS as one of the areas where we need to work harder. The 2024 registration preparations are going to be covered. I think the focus is going to be largely on the enrollment planning process and the enrollment targets, and as well as an update on the comprehensive student funding model, which to some extent the minister has articulated this morning. Readiness of the Central Application Clearinghouse, the catch system for 2024. The minister has requested that I spend a little time on possible hotspots. And most importantly, I think it will interest you, Chair, that we look into the mitigation strategies that we have put in place in this regard. Therefore, Chair, I think having covered the scope of my presentation, I think therefore also we have to declare that any omission and matters that are outside of that scope that might interest Parliament, we will respond as best as we can, to making sure that we account fully to this sitting of the Portfolio Committee. During the registration period, our universities have been very active working with us in terms of the reports on the registrations, which have assisted us to track the registration process in the academic year, but also to determine the areas of concern. This process can be better, Chair, in the way we manage it, and we must upfront say so. That we need to continue improving, and I think our direct interaction with the registrars in each of the universities have actually enhanced the quality of engagement between our university branch that helps us to also just get into the area where we understand the dynamics much better. But quite clearly, Chair, as you have observed in your opening remarks, we can strengthen this better working with students across the board, not just the union, which I think the relations between our department has strengthened over time, but I think SRCs as well in our institutions are constituted and they need to be recognized as well. The 2023 registration process was impacted by delays in confirming funding for NSFAS qualifying students and the release of grade 12 results. And I think Parliament had asked us, the portfolio committee, to say, work closer with basic education this year. Make sure that we learn from the mistakes of the previous years, and make sure that the release of the matric results is aligned to the registration processes at our institutions. So as per the reports that we have received from our universities, we can indicate that we have noted the 11 protests occurring in 11 institutions at the start of the academic year, and support where possible have been provided, and in some cases the challenges that leads to protests related to these institutions have been well reported, and I think if I may indicate what I believe is the weakness of the department, and this is what we need to work in, is the capacity to anticipate these, instead of just reacting to incidents. I think that is the area that we are working with, and I trust that going forward, there is going to be visible, areas, of improvement in our strategy. Next slide. Matters that students have been concerned with have been well reported. This list that we are providing to you, Chair, can't be comprehensive enough. And but it's important for us to reflect on it so that it is clear that we are not walking over the issues and just rushing into claiming success when there are issues around defunding of students, pending NSFAS appeals, delays on onboarding of funded students, the issues around the direct payments and the application of the 60 credits rule, the accommodation cap and the interim accommodation arrangements. All of these are issues that we continue to work with. And I'm happy that our strategy for dealing with these matters, the Minister is presenting to Cabinet together with our DDG this morning. And we hope, and at the earliest opportunity, we also have an opportunity to present this to the portfolio committee, and we look forward to that opportunity. Some of our universities have extended the registration period to accommodate the delays that have been caused. I think it has worked that we have tried to work with universities. I think it's going to take some time for us to reach the point where we really have established a system that is error-free. There's still a need for us to work on aligning systems. And this is an observation of the Auditor General. When the Auditor General looks into systems in the post-school education and training, that we need to align administrative systems across the board. And I think at some point we have spoken about the gap analysis report, which is as a result of our initiatives at EXCO of the department to look into systems across all SETAs, all universities, and the department, so that we don't duplicate. We also save our resources, and we target areas of weakness in building a new system that is seamless and integrated, which is, I think, is the focus of the department going forward. With regards to financial blocks, and some universities have made concessions that have enabled a number of students to register. This may mean then that the student bad debt will have increased in 2023. And I think this is a matter we are looking carefully at. And Chair, I think that it might not necessarily be good news, but we've been engaged with Treasury regarding the impact of budget cuts to the Department of Higher Education and Training. And these have led to revisions of the original 10% to now an average of 7%, in terms of cuts. I think it's important that whereas Treasury is doing its best to try and protect the country, from the threats that are presented by the poor economic outlook, we are able to support Treasury as a country, but also be sharp to raise issues where budget cuts just cannot assist us. And I think on record, I've written to Treasury, I've met the DG of Treasury, I've met the team at Treasury discussing particularly the impact of budget cuts to NSFAS, budget cuts to University Capacity Development Program, and budget cuts to operational areas in the system that will undermine the progress we have made. And I think those issues show some kind of, progress, which has inspired the indication by the minister that our outlook in terms of the new academic year, notwithstanding the challenges, is generally positive, and therefore that is the attitude that underpins our report today. With regards to accommodation-related matters, these matters have been attended to include the provision of interim accommodation where possible, but absolutely not, sufficient. And I think if there is a weakness in our plan, it should be the areas where some of these issues have not been fully been finalized as a result of the matters which has been indicated earlier on in the minister's remarks. The department undertook oversight visits earlier on, and the first visits, to named universities, and linked to the oversight visits of the portfolio committee. And I think we must, welcome the collaboration, Chair, your leadership in particular in this regard, and I think the department has learned something as well in these visits by the portfolio committee, the level of engagement and the quality of that engagement with our institutions. They have also inspired our approach as we continue to do so. Of course, this is going to be undermined a lot in this year by the budget cuts, as I've indicated. The monitoring tool that we have used to access the activities, to assess the activities on the ground, has been useful, and a summary of key issues raised during the meetings have been raised. This includes the delays in accurately confirming funding for new and continuing students. We have noted this. The processing of appeals is one of the issues that are still testing us. Exchanging of data between our institutions. This is largely, and it's as well also well reported. If I may just make reference to the MCI findings, much earlier, which indicated that there is a need for us to fully integrate IT systems within the PSET systems and institutions to ensure the integrity of data and the efficiency of the flow of information on registration, academic progress, progression, and the funding details. And I think these are some of the issues in the summary of issues that have been raised in meetings with NSFAS and our institutions that have come through, Chair. Other concerns related to student debt, including the implementation of the 45,000 Rand NSFAS cap, are some of these issues. Chair, I will try to move quickly, taking into account the interest of time, but I hope at some point you'll allow me just an opportunity to elaborate in a few areas. The multiple stakeholder engagements, I'm not going to go through the entire issue, Chair. We can provide the portfolio committee with a list, but what matters is that how we relate to our stakeholders is consistent, is regular, and is characterized with a relationship of trust and understanding. Those are the areas which we must build, and in as much as we can say we have considered those areas. The department is currently monitoring the varsities approved enrollment enrollment plans, and the National Treasury letters on budget cut, which has now been given to us, and we have responded to that letter now, Chair. And my response to the letter by Treasury has been that in as much as there seems to have been concessions that have been made in the National Treasury, need for us to protect funding for the poor and the working class young people of South Africa, and so that we continue to promote access to education. In August 2024, our universities will submit have already submitted preliminary projections for the enrollment planning cycle, and by the end of September, a national enrollment planning workshop had been held. By the end of October, already meetings with institutions to discuss these plans have been conducted, and it's work in progress, Chair. Our universities are expected to submit council-approved enrollment plans, which has been done, but these plans, also keep changing, and it's important for us to monitor these, and the estimated teaching inputs units calculated based on plans approved by these councils is a set of activities that are important. Our minister has been provided with the enrollment plan, as he has indicated earlier on. Our student funding model has been tabled before Cabinet, and I'm happy to confirm what the minister has reported, that the Cabinet has approved this model, particularly the focus of this model being how are we going to deal in the new academic year with the missing middle. I think, Chair, we have to indicate that we've got a lot of students in this category at the initial stage of the implementation of the model. We are going to be very cautious in our approach and in ensuring that in as much as this will cover, as the minister has indicated, the STEM areas or scarce areas or scarce subject and discipline areas, still we have to accommodate a significant amount of young people from the disadvantaged background. Next. The CARES project, Chair, I think in our presentation here, we provide our interactions with registrars in each institutions since the beginning of this month. This has been going on, and we trust that we'll continue to strengthen communication, and I think that this is work that we are looking carefully at, because it defines the readiness of our system going forward. Institutions are really engaged in this regard. I think it's also important that we look into the numbers of institutions that are already and thank you. So the hotspots. Okay.
Rene, please mute. Continue.
Thank you very much, Chair. The hotspots are often associated, and the Minister suggested that I think we need to look into this. They're generally associated with certain institutions where problems have not been addressed, and I think I'm department in dealing with hotspots has been that all the reports of independent assessors and administrators where institutions have been put under administration have been used as a springboard to identify this obstinate issues in our institutions. And I think the issue of accommodation, particularly the issue of accreditation of private accommodation, has been the focus of our strategy. NSFAS is currently finalizing the evaluation of applications and the issuing of funding decisions. Obviously, after the Werkman's report regarding direct payments, we've got a lot of issues to deal with, but we are encouraged by the fact that we are working in the clear, we're not working in the dark, because that report is giving us a sense of where are the areas of weakness in this particular area. The findings are clear, the recommendations are on the table. And so the exchange of registration data between NSFAS and universities, which have been really the key issue, Chair. I think once we moved away from grant from a loan system to a full grant to students, we started seeing a misalignment of systems that were used in the past for administering a loan system by NSFAS to a new system that is a student-centered model. And I think that is the area that we are focused upon. The delay on the finalization of appeals, the implementation of the 60 credit rule by our universities and NSFAS, including the planned programs led by the Steering Committee on Registration Matters, which I'm very happy to report that steering committee, which constitute all our stakeholders, universities, registrars, our own department, is more like the war room, that will assist us to deal with these matters. University readiness issues, all universities, and I'm really happy to say this, and I think it is part of the issues that inform the confidence that we have, that all universities have confirmed that they will complete the 2023 academic year in the same year, and as planned. And I think this is really important coming from COVID, where we know that there's been overlaps which have undermined the throughputs in the system. 23 universities have received more than 4 million applications, and we still have to receive the final figures from selected universities that have not succeeded in helping us with information, but our teams are working with those universities. So we'll keep updating these statistics, Chair, because they are really important for understanding the level of readiness. Without accuracy in the data that we provide, it's important. We are not being nice when it comes to this. We insist that universities cooperate with us in this regard. 2024 academic year, it's going to be a year on which 9 universities, that will allow late applications and walk-ins, in the academic year, have been identified, working with 8 universities indicating shortage of accommodation. Some of these are the issues of readiness we are dealing with, Chair, and I trust that of the 26 universities, it is clear that we are reducing the number of the number of problems to a fewer universities as we continue to engage with these issues, some which are obstinate, but many have been dealt with. Next. We work very well with University South Africa. University South Africa needs to work better with NSFAS for us to be able to succeed. And as a department, it's our duty to making sure that that happens. Because if our key problem area is that systems at NSFAS and systems at institutions are not properly aligned, and this leads to delays in exchange of information, and particularly transfer of data, and also late submissions. It is an area that must be dealt with. As a department, we have reported that in this regard, we have intervened, about 119 million rands, already, injected and invested into ensuring that we upgrade the systems at NSFAS. Is really important that this is done. Work has already been done, and I think that we will report progress in that regard as well. Applications that have opened since the 22nd of November, and we are going to be monitoring as we move towards the closure on the 31st of January. Particularly given the fact that the matric results are going to be released because I think it's important that when we say the system has opened on the 22nd of November, we take into account the fact that between the 22nd of November and the 18th of January, you are not going to have substantive numbers registering. You will have more numbers registering post the 19th of January, which means we need to increase teams, support teams from the 19th towards the 31st of January to support the registration, the enrollment process, and monitor our enrollment plans. And I think it's important that this is also taken into account. Upfront payments to cover tuition and accommodation allowances will be paid to universities by that time, and monthly payments will be done by the end of each month. And I think it's important that this is taken into account. The appeals processes is an important part of the democracy of the system of NSFAS, and therefore, with currently about 192,000 appeals for the 2023 academic year, and about 107,000 and more applications, that were drawn, as well as 6,123 that had not been finalized. It is clear that this is still an area that still challenges us, but we are working on it. NSFAS is still awaiting documents from the applicants, and that due to the funding shortfall, NSFAS might not be able to fund students whose appeals were successful in 2023. We make this point, but we are not also suggesting that as a department we have just left this to luck. We are working with NSFAS. This afternoon there is a board meeting of NSFAS, and these are the matters that we are looking at. Given the challenges in processing the appeals that resulted in 2023 appeals that have not been finalized, we have advised NSFAS to find better strategies to deal with the appeals, and the strategy particularly that will assist us to improve the efficiency of the system. NSFAS has reported that our university shortfall projected 1.1 billion in the current financial year, and over the MTF about 5.5 billion. But in my earlier statements, I've also indicated that there is an ongoing engagement between my office and the National Treasury to try and mitigate the consequences of this. And I've also suggested that I'm encouraged by the cooperation that we have received from Treasury in this regard. But we are not planning on the basis of hope that the outlook will be better. We are planning on the base on the worst case scenario, so that we are able to ensure that there is integrity in the mitigation strategies that we put in place. War Room will be activated to ensure timeless reporting and discussion of challenges. The monitoring tools that have been developed in the previous years that have been used have been polished, fine-tuned, and we will be assessing the registration processes, ensuring that readiness for teaching and learning, and particularly our comprehensive student academic support system and the management and stakeholder relations improve. We emphasize stakeholder relations because we know that if we can get this right, there is a better chance for us to improve significantly, from the previous years. The efforts are being made, Chair, to engage NSFAS regularly on its challenges. Our minister has directed NSFAS to update him on its turnaround strategy, and the minister has also appointed additional board members to improve the capacity of the board. And because of this, we feel, therefore, Chairperson, that overall we are looking positively through the new academic year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, DG. And thank you very much to the Minister for his remarks earlier on. I'd like to note from members if there's anything they would like to, any questions that they have. Can we stop flighting the presentation, please? I'd like to check from members if there are comments, questions, and recommendations for the department. Okay, I'm noting Honorable King, and then I'll take other members as we go. Honorable Sibia, Honorable Chachal, Honorable Ngobo, Honorable Mananiso. Honorable King.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you again, Dr. Shishi, for the presentation. We always welcome the fact that you come to the portfolio committee honest and truthful and trying to be very much transparent to put us in the right center where we should focus on. Chair, I am a bit concerned, and my question would be to the DG was exactly where are they going to look for extra funding to cover the NESFA shortfall? I know previously in 2021, it was targeted at university subsidies and TVET college infrastructure grants, and also the National Skills Fund. So I'm just concerned now that we have the shortfall, there's no way that we can even touch the university subsidies or TVET college grants. Are we then looking at the National Skills Fund again for extra funding, or where exactly do they have an idea where they could cover up funding? Or is it then that we're just going to fund less students for the 2024 academic year because we won't be able to push more than what we are budgeting for this current financial year? I probably had a bit of a challenge hearing. Will universities increase their tuition and accommodation fees for the next financial year? I heard what was said about the appeals and some students that might not be funded. I am worried when we say that, because it would then mean that most students, particularly those in the final year, might not be able to graduate because of this, because now they find themselves owing monies to the institution. And I'm very much concerned that that would skyrocket the already overburdened universities with debt, but it will also limit students from finishing the academic year peacefully and also to gain employment afterwards. So I'm concerned about those two issues, Chairperson, that I would really love to get clarity on. Newspapers are in the news, it's circulated that there is a cut of 13 billion rand within the sector. If we can just be given a proper breakdown in the sector, what makes up the 13 billion rand shortfall and for which line items. That's all, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable King. Can we then have Honorable Ngobo?
Chair?
Honorable Chachao?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Is it my turn? I'm sorry, your line got split there, so I don't know whether you skipped me or... Yeah, I couldn't hear you, but I don't know,
Okay,
maybe...
you can come in, Honorable Chachao, followed by Honorable Ngobo, Honorable Sibia, and then Honorable Mananiso.
All right. Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning.
Can you also recognize me, Chair? I'll come last, please.
Chair, do I proceed or are you...
Proceed, Chachao.
You may proceed, Honorable Chachao. Honorable
Okay.
Shikwambana, you'll be noted. I didn't see your hand, so you will be noted. Everyone will get to speak.
All right.
Honorable
Cool.
Chachao, please continue.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone in their respective seats, all protocol observed. Please excuse that my video won't be on for bandwidth purposes. So, Chair, I want to say thank you to Ntate Sishi for his presentation and borrow also on the thanks made by Honorable King and on the DG's efforts to bring the committee to confidence all the time, kindly so. Chair, I want to raise, I think, two matters. Some have already been brought by Honorable King. The first one is it becomes difficult to have confidence in the department's ability to show up when they need to show up for students particularly when we, as a committee, raise issues that speak to the lived realities of students, and those issues are met by denial. For example, we know very well that we have a student accommodation problem. Not in this country. We've spoken about it, and this is why we've been engaging the Department of Public Works as a committee. This is why we've also urged NSFAS to accredit as fast as they can, which they've been lagging behind on. I need not go to belabor on that point, because we've spoken about that ad nauseum. But still, the chairperson of the board, NSFAS, and the minister are still very much in denial in their communication, at least, that there's a problem there. So I would need the DG to please communicate on what strategy exactly. Perhaps I missed it, but directly, can you say that by the time we come back in the new academic year, all the NSFAS funded accommodation will be accredited? And I'm asking this because if that is not the case, it means that we're going to enter into another academic year where there is NSFAS funded accommodation on a system that NSFAS is unable to track, that they are unable to verify whether the quality is correct. And such an example again is Madalabara. I'm using that particular example because I think it's important, because we have there where the institution is funding, where NSFAS is funding Madalabara, but because they haven't accredited Madalabara, it becomes an awkward position altogether. So we don't want other cases in next year, Chairperson, where we have a whole lot of NSFAS funded accommodation across the country that isn't verified, that isn't accredited, and that does not meet the quality, the standards of the quality of accommodation necessary. That's one. Number two, Chair, that I need to ask on is on our curriculum. We touched on it a bit in the beginning of the year, where the department was as far as modifying curriculum across institutions of higher learning, particularly at TVET colleges. So I just need an update from the DG, Hornaro Hokai. Can we, as a committee, have confidence that in the next academic year, all academic offerings are not only going to be academically sound, but are they going to meet labor market standards? Will the qualifications be meaningful? Will they be up to date to the trends that are required in industries? Those are just my two questions, Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Kakao. Honorable Noble.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to everyone on the platform. Chairperson, I just have a question on NSFAS. So Yusuf raised a concern about the late opening of the applications for 2024 and the fact that the applications will close on the 31st of January 2024, which then creates difficulty for applicants registering on time. And also that there's no assurance that applicants will receive outcomes before campus begins and before registration deadlines close. So I just want to find out from the department, what mitigation strategies will the department, working with the NSFAS, put in place to ensure that list of funded students are released on time to universities? Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Ngobo. Can I now please note Honorable Sibia?
Thanks, Chairperson. Greetings to everyone. Thanks for the presentation from the DG. Chairperson, it has been indicated that UniZulu, Walter Sisulu, and MUT did not indicate how many applications they received. What was the reason for not indicating? And only 9 universities will allow late applications and walk-ins. Can we get a list of those universities, as well as 8 universities indicated a shortage of accommodation? Can we get a list of those 8 universities? Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Sibia. Honorable Shikwambana. Honorable Shikwamana seems to be struggling to stay online. I think he's possibly having network challenges. His device is saying joining. Okay, I'm going to go to Honorable Mananiso, and then we will check if Honorable Shikwamana's network is okay in a bit. Honorable Mananiso?
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Chair, let me welcome the presentation from the department and as well join the DG in terms of congratulating the minister. Chair, I think one would want to appreciate the fact that whatever that is being discussed in this particular platform by the portfolio committee, the department is actually trying to implement as we are suggesting. Like, for instance, I'm happy that now they have a risk mitigation plan in terms of how are they going to deal with the challenges that we are foreseeing for 2024 academic year. However, one would want them to give us perhaps a spreadsheet in terms of those particular identified risk per institution, in terms of which ones are highly in high risk and which ones are like not that much of high risk, so that at least we know that we give focus to those that they are highlighted that they are at high risk. We shouldn't paint everybody with a black paint while we're supposed to be giving these other ones priority in terms of ensuring that we do a continuous oversight up until we get a sense that they're not going to leave anyone behind in terms of accessing their institutions of higher learning. And Chair, I think I want to applaud and the department by actually implementing the issue of the persons with disability framework on how they're going to deal with it on the TVET colleges. It's something that where one gets excited to get to understand that people with disability issues, it's not a tick box, but it's something that we must do 365 days in terms of ensuring that we create a conducive environment for them. So I really appreciate the work that has been done in that space. But again, taking from what the minister has said with regards to the funding for those who are funded by municipalities, I think the department during this festive season must work hard in terms of getting that particular database, so that come next year, we don't have double dipping on the basis that now we know that we have issues in terms of funding. So it is important that we know that next year we won't be having that experience of people double dipping, because that double dipping as well affects the budget. So that we find those who actually needs funding from our side. And again, Chairperson, I think they must write to us in terms of the master plan on security and safety plan for 2023, because we know even if we didn't anticipate that there would be instability or protest, there are those elements that you would find things are not happening well and people would resort to protesting. So can we have that master plan sent to us so that we are able to check if indeed we are ready as the department? The other thing, Chairperson, is with regards to the CET program. I think I want to appreciate the work that has been done by the branch itself. However, Chair, I want to pose a question to them with regards to lecturers who are doing double dipping. To say in the branch, do they have those people? And if yes, what is it that they are going to do with that? Because those people who are double dipping, I don't think they are giving focus to the learners or beneficiaries who are our beneficiaries by CET. So I just want to get clarity if we do have such. And again, Chairperson, for 2024, I want to check with CETs in terms of how many churches or people that they have engaged in terms of getting other venues, as previously has been discussed, that they are trying to get as much more conducive venues for CET branches. So I want to check How far are we as well with that? And they must write to us. Lastly, Chairperson, it's with regards to gender-based violence and femicide program by Higher Health. I want to check with the department, what is our plan to date in terms of 2024 programs prior to the opening of the institutions of higher learning? Because I think sometimes we become reactive rather than being proactive while we have those services attend. So I want to check what are the programs that we already have to prepare those ones who are coming 2024. And that's it from myself, Chairperson. But lastly, let me welcome the comprehensive funding approval, to say it's a step in the right direction, and it really shows that we are the government that cares, because we really understand that not everybody can afford, even if that particular person earns 350,000 plus in a year. So it really shows that we are committed in terms of what we've been saying, that we want to create a better life for all. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mananiso. Honorable Ite. Honorable Shikwambana, wait, before I go to Honorable Ite, Honorable Shikwambana, is your network fine now?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear me, Chair.
Okay, let's try.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, you may go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, Chair. And thanks for the opportunity and greetings to honorable members in the department here. I just have some few issues here to point out. The first one is the issue of the accommodation in the institutions of higher learning. We all know that we've got crisis of accommodation in South Africa, where at some point it even takes our students to risk their life to go and find an accommodation elsewhere outside the university premises, and also outside even the accommodations or buildings that are approved by NSFAS itself, or even worse, not even approved by the institution itself, where the conditions or there where they find themselves in students are not conducive for a student to be staying there. And the department seems to be actually not taking that matter serious. I've got close to 105 students at the University of the Free State in Kwatwa campus who are actually residing in a private accommodation. And in that private accommodation, Chair, at some point, it's not approved by the institution. And now they are sitting at a risk level wherein usually in the previous years, the institution and NSFAS were even paying for their accommodation in those unapproved accommodations where they are residing. So this year, 105 as they are, they are actually excluded. NSFAS says it's not going to pay.
Honorable Shikwambana, we've lost you. We tried our best to listen. It was difficult. I hope DG and the team were able to hear some of the questions. But let me then go to Honorable Litie.
Thank you very much, Chair. As you can hear, flu is really crippling. Let's welcome the presentation from the department and greet everybody on the platform. Chair, Maybe now colleagues will begin to understand our frustrations with not only the what I call the corruption when it comes to student accommodation accreditation. Maybe, I've been listening to colleagues raise questions. Maybe now they will begin to understand. Okay, maybe let's clarify one thing first, is that all along, student accommodation at all our institutions have been accredited by universities or university appointed agents. At no point did NSFAS play a direct role in accrediting student accommodation. At no point, except this year when they attempted to do so. Even that did not, really take off, because if you remember, I don't know if they had accredited close to 15,000 beds the whole of this year. So everything else that we've been raising has been that the university-led accreditation process has not been satisfactory. I'm happy, that colleagues are now beginning to agree with what we've been saying all along, especially on the suitability of those student accommodation beds. Hopefully soon, once they get their pulse on the real problem, which is siphoning of money from these accommodation providers, which means some of them end up being accredited by these universities when they don't deserve to be accredited, because they are taking out money. They are just giving university agents money, and those ones they accredit them. They tell them, or no, you are accredited, we're actually grading you at this particular grade, and you will be paid this much by NSFAS. In 2021, late, we raised an issue again that NSFAS was paying the university, some universities. In this instance, we made an example with VUT, that NSFAS has been paying VUT this amount of money for this number of students who were supposed to be staying at Res A and B and C. We then raised an issue and said, those Res A, B, and C actually don't exist. And as far as you are correctly paying to the university because you are being billed, but those things don't exist. We said VUT must do DG, forensic. They found 51 of those houses were not student accommodation. That's private homes of people, and there were no students staying there, but we had lost millions there. So when we agreed, and I'm happy that slowly colleagues are beginning to agree that there is no way that NSFAS should be paying plus minus 17 billion a year on student accommodation and not play an active role. I'm happy because they have not really said it openly, but if you listen to colleagues, they are agreeing that NSFAS must then play that role. What we said, Chair, we are not going to accept is to get the same allegations that the agents or employees of NSFAS will also be doing what these universities are doing, accrediting non-deserving accommodation by taking money from these accommodation providers and all kinds of wrong things. I'm happy on student accommodation, Chair, that we are now on the same page with colleagues. I am extremely happy that colleagues are beginning to accept that part. Secondly, Chair, I think it was Honorable Mananis who asked this question, but I want to ask it differently. Because, sorry, because 2024 is an election year, DJ, we are likely to get political parties wanting, to grab the limelight at the beginning of the academic year. It's a no-brainer. That is going to happen. That is going to happen, whether you want to accept or not, but it's going to happen. So what measures has the department put in place, in collaborating with law enforcement agencies and the security departments of these universities, and making sure that we safeguard the infrastructure of our universities? Have you probably met with the intelligence of this country to prevent destruction of our properties by arresting those who will be planning to bring instability in these institutions of ours? Thirdly, has the department honestly had a heart-to-heart with USAF in making sure that they themselves don't contribute to the instability at the beginning of the year? What do I mean? It is common knowledge that USAF is not happy. They've said it in our meetings. It's not a secret. With NSFAS playing a role on the accreditation of student accommodation, they've said it clearly that they do not want, or they do not approve of NSFAS through fintech companies paying directly or distributing allowances directly to students, as that takes away, the liquidity they have in their accounts. Have you had a heart-to-heart with USAF about them understanding that it is really not in the interest of these universities to have an instability there in our institutions at the beginning of the year? If not, I would suggest that you do so, and you do so urgently. Last week we had a meeting with them and NSFAS and all of that. Sorry. And what seems to be a challenge from where I'm seated, DG, is that at this time, immediately when results are released and the beginning of the financial year, there seems to be no communication at all, or slow or go slow kind of communication between the universities and NSFAS in terms of sharing progression data of students, the report, the results. Or universities submit to NSFAS, but NSFAS seems not to be able to interpret properly and on time this data from universities. Can we get an undertaking that I think some results from some universities are out now. So NSFAS should be knowing Tebo Kgolitsie, who was funded in 2023, if Tebo Kgolitsie will be funded next year based on the results in some instances now. But I'm sure at all universities around the 15th or so, next week, Friday, the results should be out for everybody. Will NSFAS and the department work around the clock in making sure that at least by around the 3rd of January, they would have communicated with everybody returning if they are still funded or not by around the 3rd of January. So that by the 18th of January or so, NSFAS only deals with funding statuses of first-time entrants. Those who would have received their results from Umalusi, something that some people don't have a relationship with Umalusi. You know, so that, you know, you only deal with a small pool of students. What, you know, how to arrest frivolous protests or sponsored protests is that all returning students, DG, by the first week of January, they know whether they are funded or not, they've passed or not. So that you only deal with plus minus 50,000 or so. Some of them you don't even deal with them because surely about 20,000 or so will come from SASA homes. There's nothing there. You only deal with probably 30,000 out of over 1 million that you are dealing with. So the problem is that NSFAS wants to assess and analyze the returning students at the same time with a new entrant student, and that creates a serious problem. So yeah, those are my my few things, Chairperson. I'm sorry for taking long, but you know, so some of these things very close to our hearts because we honestly understand the plight of some of these students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Itie. And there's no need to apologize at all because these are very important questions that we are all asking. And I think, look, colleagues, this year was a very difficult year, you know, with many hurdles and barriers that we encountered as a sector. We were constantly troubleshooting. And one of the greatest elements that led to this state of troubleshooting was definitely NSFAS. And really I think all the questions that members are asking are quintessential. And the Honorable King acknowledged at the start of the round of comments and questions from members that the DG is often very honest and open and transparent about the state of the sector. And so even as we respond to these questions, let's maintain that posture of being honest, so that we actually know what the crisis we are facing is and what needs to be done by various stakeholders in the ecosystem of higher education and training need to do, so that next year, we have a better start. And for me, DG, I've just reflecting on the conversations we had with our governors, our TVET governors. One would assume that in the absence of the portfolio committee, you have structures that are in place that strengthen the accountability ecosystem, right? So who essentially do what the committee would do, but on their behalf. And so the role of governors, you would want to really stand out throughout the year, but even more so at the start of the academic year. And that was very alarming to hear from TVET CGC how in many TVET colleges, councils are, it's almost like war when council wants to do an oversight visit and check or inspect and guide in terms of what they're seeing the state of the institution and its campuses to be. And so it's inevitable that we're going to have instability, and it's inevitable that we're going to have young people who are disgruntled in these institutions if the immediate accountability structure, being that TVET's council, is disregarded by management. It means that kuzawumele ukufika wena DG kanye DG Zungu ontuli, and then we fix issues. I mean, that takes days, not because you are slow to respond, but because there's so many institutions that you are responsible for. So if our councils are not given the space to crack the whip where they need to, it just does not assist us, and so we need your intervention there, DG, because those are the small things that also don't really assist us in wanting to see the type of stability that we want to see. But and that's why you will find, for example, that when we go and do oversight as the portfolio committee, you have council members going, wow, with us, wow, oh, we didn't know, or, oh my God, how is this really happening? Council members can't be doing that. Council members need to know, one should be able to meet with a council member in any shopping center, just walking past and say, oh, so how's the institution? We heard 1, 2, 3 is happening, and they should be able to actually account. But often these council members aren't able to account because of the gatekeeping from management, principals and management who don't want to be transparent with councils. And councils feel like there's nothing they can do with that management thereafter, so those are, just besides everything that members have said. I mean, I really concur with all that members have said, from issues around NSFAS to the posturing of USAF, issues around student accommodation, the concerns around funding for the sector, given also the budget cuts. So the whole myriad of matters that have been raised, one truly concurs with members. And so I'd like to hand back to you, DG Sishi, and your team for your responses. Thanks, DG.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. For the leadership in in these areas. I think you've also assisted me with kind of clarity in terms of matters of emphasis. I trust that, Chair, at all times that we come to Parliament to account, we shall always be that should be motivated by pursuing nothing else but the truth to the best of our abilities, and we trust that this is consistent as well. In this particular issue, Chair, I think you have noted that in the way we structured the presentation, we have not tried to create an impression that everything is well. I think this is the different state of the readiness report from others we have presented in the past. You have seen from the remarks of the minister that the minister not only is talking about the problems, but is also trying to say, we've got a plan. We are moving forward. We've got a comprehensive student model that we have tabled to cabinet. It is still at early stages of it because its focus is only the missing middle, also not covering the entire missing middle, but it is a beginning to say, in as much as we are focused to the poor and the working class young people of South Africa, but all students matter in all categories. And I think this is what unites all of us in our pursuance of answers to the problems we are confronted with. Chair, allow me for 1 minute only to say that when the Ministerial Commission of Inquiry established that the organizational culture of NSFAS was not aligned to its mandate, what they actually meant was that there was a need for us to focus on strategic interventions to correct the culture first and foremost. Secondly, to review the improvement plan that gets presented to us so that they are not just tick boxes, to making sure that these are aligned to internal policies within NSFAS so that we are assured that these plans are articulating to the improvement strategies that are there. They also said change management strategy was important, that we need to make sure that we deal with the issues of and build business intelligence capacity so that we are able to track and improve academic performance within the system. And finally, they also said that there is a need for a full integration of IT systems, not only with NSFAS, but across all PSET institutions, so that university exchange of data, Honorable Letsie has articulated this so well to say that if we were to speak a heart-to-heart around the working of and NSFAS, we would identify issues, and those issues needs to be addressed in our mitigation strategy. So I think, Chair, these are the issues which will not run away. I think if I were to say all that I've said now in one sentence, it would be that NSFAS is a funding manager. As a funding manager, NSFAS should be equated to big banks. Big banks in South Africa. So if you look at a big bank, any bank in the country, you look at the structures, the systems, you will see that what we need to do is to look, at the way the structure is presented to us, and align this to the lessons learned from there. The Capitec Bank manages around 21 billion rands. NSFAS more than 47 billion rands. Just in Pretoria alone, if we were to look at Capitec structures, Capitec outlets, banking outlets, staff, you can actually see that it is possible to find that in just one metro, the bank structures that are there are by far more than the structures at NSFAS. And we know why this is. It's because the system is still structured as though NSFAS disperses loans as it has been in the past, when actually now, since post-2019, NSFAS is dealing with massive numbers, and therefore it's important for us to work on this solution. We have not reached that point, Chair. So when we talk about state of readiness, outside of all of these issues being dealt with, there will always be shortfalls in our strategy or in the communications of such a matter. So it's the reason why our minister is at Cabinet today, to present to Cabinet and brief Cabinet on the developments at NSFAS, and to update Cabinet on recent developments and the strategy to improve NSFAS, which I think we need a dedicated time in our committee to discuss this, interrogate it with honesty and with respect of our committee. And I think I can commit this, Chair, that we are ready to do this. If we were to, I were to just go through the questions, Honorable King, thank you for the words of encouragement. We shall try to live up to the high standards you are holding us accountable for. May I indicate that recently I received correspondence from Treasury, which really spoke about Vote 17, estimates of national expenditure for 2024 to 2027. In this correspondence between my office and Treasury, we are trying to agree on issues around the Treasury guidelines, on the estimates of expenditure, on key items in education or higher education. In this regard, I have had an opportunity, Honorable King, to respond to this correspondence from the DG of Treasury by indicating, first, appreciating that the 6% cuts on transfers and subsidies on average constitute about 9 billion rands per year of cuts on NSFAS, on the university capacity development programs, and on community education and training. And because of this, I cannot accept that we just implement those cuts without a serious conversation. So we have started that conversation. We have responded to Treasury by requesting that in as much as we are fully behind Treasury in supporting the initiatives of Treasury to protect our democracy, to protect our country against inflation and poor economic outlook globally, it is important that we still are able to identify priorities that must be protected in terms of budgeting, and also in terms of cuts in our budget, because the negative implications, for example, on infrastructure projects, we have a plan for establishing 2 new universities. We have a plan to ensure that ministerial projects are implemented. We have a plan on ensuring that we build 9 community education and training colleges. And so we are concerned that the cuts are actually directly impacting these areas. And we have engaged Treasury, and we have seen the difference in the response of Treasury in the reduction of the 10% to between 6 and 7%, which has now been in the latest correspondence been there. So to try and answer you directly, Honorable King, I could just say that the areas of concern, particularly to us, is if cuts affects CHE, for example, a budget, which is actually our quality assurance wing that does oversight of these institutions. We want to make sure that this budget is protected so that quality assurance of our universities is protected, and that the integrity of our institutions abroad and anywhere in the world helps us to protect the currency of our qualifications, and therefore secures jobs for thousands of South Africans. It also includes in the same length SAQA and the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations, and NSFAS. Here we are talking about a budget of around, in total, 47 billion. That if we were to cut this by the proposed 7%, even if those cuts are in these key areas, it will undermine the work that we do. These are the issues which we are tabling, but I really have confidence at this point in time that we might not get everything that we want, because we understand the competing priorities of our country, but we are talking to a treasury that, to me, is listening to us and is working with us in dealing with these matters. Honorable Ngobo, the late applications, may I acknowledge that you are correct that late applications are going to crowd the application system, the enrollment system, and it will undermine any progress that we are reporting today after the release of the results. And therefore, in our mitigation strategies, we need to relook into how this is going to be managed. I can assure you that in what I've presented today, there is no sufficient indication of how we will manage this, except to say that we have indicated that we have a mitigation strategy overall, which therefore means we need to look into that strategy to making sure that this is taken into account. Honorable Khao, I think first I must appreciate the tone of your questions and the acknowledgement of the fact that we are working together to making sure that this is success in the work that we do. You have emphasized the core business of our department, which is curriculum. And you are saying, notwithstanding what circumstances we are confronted with, protect the pillars of our curriculum, ensure that the quality of our curriculum, the currency of that curriculum, the relevance of that curriculum, the esteem of that curriculum across higher education is protected. And I think that we have taken that advice very well. And I trust that in our engagements with curriculum issues, we will also continuously engage with you in terms of specific interventions that we are currently working with. I am quite excited about the selected universities that are working on the issue of a highly articulated higher education science and innovation system, wherein we're trying to align and articulate our curriculum such that it responds to the values of the white paper on post-school education and training. And I think that is important to me, but there is a lot of other issues of collaboration, issues of internationalization, issues of modernization, are matters that are part of the issues around curriculum development. The new academic year is going to be challenged if, as Honorable Khao has observed, if accreditation of student accommodation issues have not been tackled honestly and confronted specifically. You are asking me to share with you what I believe is the strategy, that area that deals with the matter. We have agreed that, as Honorable Letia has observed, that universities and the accreditation system that I've used over the years cannot be considered to be without flaws. And therefore, it is important for us as a department to work together with NSFAS in ensuring that first and foremost, we develop proper guidelines, for the accreditation process that can graduate into policy, and if necessary, consider, regulations that are going to, guide these processes. I think over years you have seen that we are not trigger happy when it comes to writing policies, but we are really strong on implementation of existing policies with weaknesses that are well reported. But what is important here is that in our strategy, collaboration with NSFAS and our institutions, including USAF, is going to be the answer to our problems, but also being able to identify the areas where there are challenges with clear indication of what are the short, medium term, and long term, focal areas in that strategy. And I think it needs to be observed and be monitored continuously so that any dynamics that are not addressed by that strategy are picked up early without these affecting our students. Honorable Sibia, the universities that are mentioned that have not complied, in some parts of it, it's a system issue, the non-alignment of systems within the PSET system, which aligns your views with what the Auditor General says, that the PSET system must align all its systems across the board. And unless this is done, there will be inconsistencies in data collection, in funding decisions, in exchange of data. And therefore, the project for the integration of ICT systems is going to be important. But there is also other matters that could be just matters where, discipline about deadlines that are given, of which consequence management must work, when it comes to this. And I can assure you that we don't spare the rod when it comes to consequence management. Honorable Mananiso, largely your observations are an advice, are an observation to us, particularly you are advising us that in as much as we are presenting the mitigation strategies today, those mitigation strategies must also be tested by the reality of the dynamic nature of our institutions universities have their own dynamic nature, and CET, and we are citing double dipping, is testing the theory of the mitigation strategies we have advanced, and that we must look into these areas and regularly report, and share that data with us. And I think, Honorable Shikwambane, thank you for your comments. I thought largely your comments, although I did not hear the last part of it, they are about your concern for ensuring that there is stability in the system, for ensuring that the enrollment plan is rigorous enough to take into account the established issues that have been tabled by honorable members, also that are acknowledged by the presentation. And thank you very much for this. We assure you that we will look into these issues, but we'll also engage so that continuously, if we miss the point, we can be corrected and be assisted to fix it. Honorable Lesia, I think you may agree with me that the issues that we have raised are, to us, the kind of support that the portfolio committee gives us, and of which we appreciate. You emphasize working with national security agents. You are challenging us as a department. You are saying to what extent our collaboration with law enforcement agencies in the country, have we looked into the issues, around the corruption on student accommodation that has actually raised its ugly heads in a number of areas. And you are correct to cite the VUT forensic report that have cited clear issues that needs the police in this regard. I may say that at this point in time, Honorable Lesia, if I could just cite the support that I'm receiving from the police, especially the Hawks, the SIU, regarding NSF forensic report and its implementation of its recommendation. The support we've received in the investigation at NSFAS, in the investigation at the University of Fort Hare, with weaknesses that are there. For example, once the police start an investigation, they hardly communicate their progress for obvious reasons. But those of us who are administrators, who have to be accountable at all times, struggle when we can't get information that is necessary for us to account on what we do. In a long term, these are the issues we need, Honorable Lesia, to fix between us. But I'm happy when I go to Scopa to account on these issues, that each time I've been there, I've never been contradicted by the Hawks, by the SIU and other law enforcement. There is an alignment between us, but I think there are specific matters that require the kind of attention that you are enjoining us to look into. Indeed, the conversation between us and Yusuf, let me put it this way, Honorable Lesia, there's been leadership at Yusuf. That leadership that has taken Yusuf from where it was to where it has been outstanding leadership, if you were to recall the history. And therefore, we've never been, we've never experienced these challenges that we see now. And there's new leadership there. My duty is to support that leadership, the new leadership of Yusuf, to assist it, particularly the fact that we have a chair that is progressive, and I wish the presentation that was made by the chair of Yusuf, because I believe that you would have had a different conclusion about the maturity of that subsystem. So I feel that there is work that needs to be done there, but I'm optimistic that with the kind of leadership by the chair of USAF, we will be able to deal with the teething problems that the new leadership might be picking up, so that in the way we communicate to the public, there is resonance in terms of policies that inform the mandate that all of us carry. It can't be that all of us serve one system, but when we communicate, it's like we are opposing one another. I will support and I will defend my colleagues and counterparts when they differ with me and differ with us at every given point. But I also will expect from them that they also do so without undermining the mandate. That is the reason for their being there in the first place. Honorable, let's see, I think I can assure you that communication strategy is the communication strategy is key in our strategy for school for new academic year readiness. You are going to see how we do this. We have strengthened NSFAS communication. I think announcements will be made in this regard. We are strengthening communication of our department, and we've developed a communication plan which will be released. And when these have been done, we'll share with you. We are not saying these are perfect, but we feel that we have developed a blueprint on the basis on which we could work together. I've tried to summarize, Chair, Honorable Chair, and I apologize if in areas I might have overreached and extended myself. But I think I do wish you to pick up that we still have the passion about higher education. The members of the public that might be listening to us today must know this, that we may have differences here and there at times, but we have more common matters that binds us together. And these are giving us the reason for the positive report we are presenting on readiness. Not because there are no problems, but because we believe we are equal to the task and that we are ready to admit where there are errors and weaknesses. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, DG. Honorable King, is that a legacy hand or a new hand?
It's a new hand, Chair. I just wanted to ask one question, please.
Okay, you might go ahead.
Okay. DG, I just want to find out, it was brought to my attention about in CHE with the accreditation of the medical specialist, particularly at Frey Hospital and Livingston Hospital. I'm a bit concerned because they have completed their 2-year in-service, and now there's issues with them being accredited to fully have like ENT specialist, ophthalmology and all of that. I just wanted to find out, are there still discussions to sort that issue out?
Thank you very much.
Well, I think because of time, you can take this one, DG.
Sorry about that, Chair. Thank you. We've just had a groundbreaking meeting with the DG of Health regarding all of these issues of accreditation, because we really want to seal, and this is not the only one, there's issues around the accreditation, of selected areas in technical in universities of technology, and we've agreed to re-establish a joint structure chaired by both our ministers of health and minister of higher education, so that we look across all the issues that relates to accreditation when it comes to health-related professions, so that these which have been reported by also DUT, which have been reported, also by a few universities of technologies, to say, let us work together on these ones. I have not necessarily received this report we are talking about. It's still with our university branch. The minute they've processed it administratively, I will look into it. But we are working together with health, and I'm sure that we will protect the integrity, because I think what your worry is that we must never undermine the integrity of these assessments, because they will then ruin the image of our system. I think this is a sound warning to us, and I can assure you that our ministers have revived the joint structure to deal with these matters. So I'm confident that this is done. We will report to you the progress specifically on this matter you have raised.
Thank you very much, DG. And thank you very much to honorable members for your comments, questions, and recommendations. DG, we're going to see each other again early next year, as we always do every year, where we follow up on these matters. And I think the approach we should use is the same as this year, where we first visited the institutions, and then we had a meeting with yourselves at the end of our oversight. We, I think, have recently received the guidelines from the Office of the Chair of Chairs for the start, or for the first term of 2024. And so I'm really hoping that they have given us another 2 weeks for us to do our oversight. I think going into 2024, it's going to be quintessential for us to have ample time to interact with institutions of higher learning, as we understand some of the possible challenges that we're bound to have. And it will be very important, DG, that as a ecosystem, we are aligned. One really must acknowledge the support that we got from the department. PLOs, Mr. Bingwa, Mr. Muhlame, Mr. Mampejo, people in the comms team, everyone, DDGs, everyone from the department, who ensured that at every point at which we were interacting with an institution, there was representation from the department. And why this is important, DG, is because we want to fix these problems as we go. If we're at an institution and we are noting issues that need the attention of the department, we can't wait 2 weeks at the end of our oversight to say to the department, there's X and Y problem. When the department is there with us, we're able to collectively troubleshoot those matters, so that in some institutions, we're able to have a better start to the academic year. Colleagues will pardon me, I also am sick, like Honorable Litsie, hence my voice is a bit husky and my nose is a bit blocked, and I think it's affecting the breathing just a little bit. So yes, colleagues, so we that type of synergy between the department and ourselves going into the 2024 academic year, and the oversight that we will do is going to be important. Another matter, though, that's going to be important is for us as a sector not to have conversations for the sake of having conversations. I think for me, that was a big challenge for this academic year. We engaged a lot, we had countable stakeholder meetings. And at some point, all that engagement, all these stakeholder meetings need to have greater results. We can't all say, yes, yesterday we met with whoever, yes, yesterday we met with whoever, but there's no impact on the ground in terms of the outcomes of that, right? So that's the one thing that we're also going to have to zoom into. So with that being said, I want to appreciate what you have responded to, DG, and just to reiterate that this work that we're doing around the state of readiness is going to be ongoing work. And when we are there, DG, with yourselves, we need to have the same way you send senior representatives of the department to the oversight. NSFAS also needs to see how, you know, they also match that. You know, I mean, we often are accompanied by DDGs to the oversight visits that we do. And so noting the challenges that we have around NSFAS at various institutions, it'll be very important that NSFAS matches the level of representation that they also send to the oversight visits. But what I'm trying to stress is that given all the matters that members have raised, which are all very important, what's really going to assist us is how fast we respond, but even before the response time, how organized we are, our planning, and those conversations need to be ongoing from now going into the start of next year. We cannot be found flat-foot at all. And so with that being said, thank you very much to all honorable members. Minister, I see you are back, so we note that you did come back. But I think DG did respond adequately to the questions that we posed. But I can afford you, just a few minutes if there's anything else you'd like to add, but we are good to end the meeting. Minister?
Are you giving me a chance, Chair?
I am giving you a chance, but I'm also telling you that DG did cover most, so we should be fine.
Yes. No, I don't want actually to say any more, especially because the DG has responded. I'm quite pleasantly surprised today that we're about to finish at this time, Chair, which is very good, by the way, because also we're running around. I'm having lots of meetings with NSFAS this afternoon, so this helps me. Chair, I just want to say to you, thank you very much to the Portfolio Committee and for the interactions. Despite whatever problems sometimes we've had, but relatively we've interacted with yourselves fairly well as the Portfolio Committee. Of course, it's got its robust moments, sometimes moments of disagreements. All what I want to emphasize, Chair, is that I have no intention to not account or to be held to account by the Portfolio Committee. That's all I want to emphasize. I also want to agree with you that if all hands can be on deck at the beginning of the at the beginning of the academic year, that will be good for all of us, because a number of problems sometimes that we face is not because there are problems, but it's inability to work together to share information. Of course, much as we understand that we are a portfolio committee, we also come from different political parties, so in some instances there could be those differences. But it's important that we actually place the interest of the beneficiaries of the post-school education and training sector first. We are one department, by the way, that caters educational needs, not just for youth, much as the majority is the youth, but we also have the task to also provide post-school education for adults. Adults who are much older than what we normally define as youth, in other words, post 35 and above. So it's important that we place the interests of the sector above all else. And this portfolio committee has got an important role to play. I do welcome, Chair, whenever you go out on oversight, It also helps that we've got other eyes and ears that are able to check. But also, hopefully, the process also work together with us in solving the problems that you identify. That's all what I want to say, Chair. And then on my side, to also just say to you and to all the honorable members, may you please have a happy festive season. Now, as you know, Tina, if you don't rest in December and first week of January at the latest, then we're in trouble because our issues start by the second week of January. In some instances, even on the 2nd of January. So I wish that you rest. It's not progressive not to rest. Have a rest, have a festive season, be safe, and everybody comes back. And I'm looking forward to the start of the academic year, as I said at the beginning, and thanks to my officials as well for having been able to interact and engage with you. That's all I want to say, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the well wishes. And yes, today's meeting has ended slightly earlier because I think the spreading out of our meetings, even having other meetings, sub-meetings, I'd like to call them, has assisted in alleviating pressure from this particular meeting. And so that is why we have been able to conclude within this particular time, because usually we don't have sufficient time and we are forced to compress quite a lot into 3 hours, which for our sector, like you're saying, there's so much work in our sector to be done. 3 hours to engage with the amount of stakeholders with the number of stakeholders we're often trying to engage with can be really cumbersome and difficult. But thank you very much, members, for an amazing year, for being as robust as you always are, for being committed to the work that we do as this committee. I often hear other chairpersons of committees talk about how there's poor attendance, lack of participation. I mean, even when we're engaging science, our meetings can drag because of the inputs that members have to give. But thank you very much for your continued support in the work that we do. Thank you very much to the department, DG, and to your team. There are some DGs we haven't seen in a while, but I think last week when I was not well, in fact, DDG Zungu was here. But I'm happy to see many of the DGs on the platform. Masinganiboni siyanikhumbula. Siyazi ukuthi nibe busy, but we really appreciate the work that you do. To the committee staff, to the committee secretaries, content advisors, researchers, Tamkolo, Tanya, to the entire team, the researchers from the various political parties. I don't know some of the researchers from the other parties, but to the researchers from the parties, thank you very much for the work that you do in supporting members to do this important work of oversight. An important work that we need to guard, need to protect, that we need to ensure is vibrant, is active, so that the voices of the people of South Africa are not drowned, and that they are heard, and that we're able to address their concerns. So with that being said, thank you very much, members, and we will see each other soon. The committee program will come out. Sorry, 1 second, please. Sorry about that. So I want to just indicate to members that the draft committee program will be out soon and hopefully will include sufficient oversight time for all of us. I hope I'm not leaving out anything. Anel, is there anything I've left out? Okay. All right, then I think we're good, and we will see each other in January, February. This meeting has officially come to an end. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Bye-bye.
Well,
wrong 10 waras.
Thanks,
Habe
everybody.
simshiye
Goodbye.
Switzerland lo.
Chairperson.
bye, Minister.
Bye, everyone.
I think you,
The minutes, please.
Minister.
Oh, we're doing the minutes.
Yes,
Oh,
steps.
No, I think lento keze ngayo yasebenza bona ishaye i-network ka Sikwamba.
Was he cut off?
Yeah, hayi lento yakho isebenze kakhulu namhlanje.
Ngizalwa inyanga nje kade ngangimtshela. Okay, Debza, sizobonana, eh?
Bye, Minister. Nompendo, are we doing the minutes?
But Anele, I asked him what else he wants us to do. He said nothing is
did nothing.
No, I said minutes, Chair. I said
fine.
minutes.
How many are we on the platform?
Siyashota manje. Mhlambe singabala Dr. Sish as a member because of correct.
He's gone.
Is there anybody else?
Simkile, Anele.
We're fine. No, we're fine, Chair. We've a quorum.
Njani?
How many are we?
5. Anele can count.
6 with me. We're 6. All right.
No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Why are we counting out loud like this? This is embarrassing.
No, because we're looking at the screen. And so we're counting like 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5. Yeah, Ngaba's gone. Oh, who's gone? Yeah, Mom's B is gone. Who's gone? Okay, wait. 1.
Oh, we're here.
3.
It's Sibia. It's
4,
Ngobo's Khakao. It's
5.
Pili, Tajo. We're 6.
We're 6.
We're 6. Count yourselves, guys. We're 6.
Yeah, we're 6. Can you continue?
Okay, that's fine. We can take the minutes. All right. We have the minutes from the 17th, the 22nd, and the 29th. All right. I'll start with the minutes of the meeting on the 17th. On the 17th of November, we interacted with the HSRC on their findings and recommendations of the South African National Survey on Health, Life Experiences, Family Relations, and how it will inform the National Gender-Based Violence Strategy and Plans. Those minutes are 3 pages long. And then we have minutes from the 22nd of November, where we interacted with DHET on the merger or migration, of agriculture and health colleges towards DHET and national competence. And then we dealt with the Maputo Protocol, as well as the National Plan for Post-School Education and Training. And those minutes are 8 pages long. That was quite a long meeting. Or rather, that meeting had many items on it. And then last, we have the meeting on the 22nd of November with USAF, SALS, SABCO, and SATFETA, which was chaired by Honorable Litsie, though I was on the platform. All right, and those minutes are 7 pages long. I would then like to note hands from members who have any amendments to make to any of those minutes. Okay, I don't see amendments. Honorable Khakao, amendments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, cool. Can I note a hand that seeks to adopt the minutes? All right, thank you, Honorable Litsie.
Yes, Chairperson, on behalf of myself and Honorable Khakha, we want to move for the adoption of the minutes.
Okay. On behalf of yourself, we do note that you have moved for the adoption of the minutes. Can I please note a hand that would like to second the adoption of the minutes? A second. I can't second the minutes, honorable members.
I did indicate on behalf of myself and on and seconding.
Your members, Anele, are logged on, but not on.
This is exposure 101. These people are there by the screens. Oh, Nagumo.
Thank you, Chairperson. I second the adoption of the minutes.
All right, thank you so much. Those minutes have been adopted by Honorable Litie and seconded by Honorable Nobo. Thank you very much, members, and have yourselves a lovely festive season. And definitely do try to rest. Ngoba next year, hey, ziyabuya ngempela. Siyabonga.
Goodbye.
Debza, why didn't you leave her in Switzerland?
Bye.
No problem.
Blessed Christmas to everyone and safe travels if you're traveling. Take care.
And you too.
Thank you, Agatha.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, members.
Recording stopped.